Okay, you've got 2 minutes to introduce yourselves. We'll start with Amy Clark Meacham, who's running for Chief Justice.
Hi, Hays County Democrats. Thanks for having us here. Great to be here. Yes, thank you. Woo! My name is Judge Amy Clark Meacham. I'm a 3-term district court judge from Travis County. I'm in the middle of my 3rd term there, and I'm the presiding judge for all the civil and family courts. I'm also a mom, a wife, a proud small-town girl, and proud Texas Democrat for my entire adult life. And when I filed to run in December, I became the first woman in Texas history to run for the position of Chief Justice of the Texas Supreme Court. Thank you. Thank you. It's exciting to take on this challenge in 2020, especially to take it on against a 32-year incumbent. A 32-year incumbent. He's been on the court since 1988. When the Republicans started taking back or took over Texas, he was the original client. He was Karl Rove's original client. So what I like to tell people is the takeover by the Republicans started with the Texas Supreme Court, and we're going to end it with them too. So a little bit more about me. Like I said, I'm a 3-term district court judge. I'm up in Travis County. I went to the University of Texas School of Law and SMU undergrad. For the last 10 years, I've been working in the civil and family courts there, and I've become the judicial liaison to the Administrative and Public Law Council for the state of Texas, as well as a volunteer legal services board member. And I'm proud and excited to be taking on this challenge. We, as Texas Democrats, we need to stand for the Constitution in 2020. This is the most, I am not exaggerating, and I know there have been important elections for all of us, but this one is the most important election of our lifetime. And it is important that all of us, everyone running, the judicial candidates, everybody else, we are standing for the rule of law, we are standing for the Constitution, we are standing for democracy itself. So thank you for having us here on this very important issue today, having the judicial candidates. My name is Judge Amy Clark Meacham, and I would appreciate your support and your vote.
Thank you.
Howdy, everybody. I'm Brandy Voss, and I'm not running against either one of these beautiful ladies. I'm running for Texas Supreme Court, place 7. Who here can guess how long it's been since we've had a Democrat on the Texas Supreme Court? Can anybody guess? 22 years, right? There are 9 justices on the Supreme Court, and they are all Republican. And can anybody guess how many of them were initially appointed by one of our Texas governors? 7 of the 9, right? So why should you care about that? Because what that means is that they're all cut from the same cloth as our Texas governor. Who thinks that that's right? No. They don't represent us. They're in their ivory tower in Austin, and they're not connected with the people. They don't represent our state of Texas, and I'm running to change that. I'm from McAllen, Texas. Just like we haven't had a Democrat on the court in 22 years, we haven't had a representative from the Buda-Area in 22 years. And I'll echo what Judge Meacham just said. This is the most critical election in the state of Texas in our lifetime, and what's coming up in 2020. After we get the census data, we're going to start the redistricting process. The United States Supreme Court has said it will not consider political gerrymandering cases, but they'll probably go to the Texas Supreme Court. We need people who understand the Constitution. I'm the only candidate in my race that's board certified in civil appellate law. I've been a professor of constitutional law at the University of Texas, Rio Grande Valley. I've worked inside the Texas Supreme Court as a staff attorney. I was one of 18 law students chosen for that job after law school from around the country. And I've also served as a senior staff attorney at the 13th Court of Appeals for 4 years. I've been practicing for 17 years, strictly appellate. I know how to do this job, and I'm ready to get started on day 1 to protect your rights and represent you on the Texas Supreme Court.
Good afternoon. Are there any Democrats in the House? I've been here before, and I know that y'all can do better than that. Are there any Democrats in the House? Yes, yes. My name is Gisela Triana, and with your help, last time in 2018, we flipped the Third Court of Appeals. I was one of the 4 Democrats that you sent to an all-Republican 6-member Court of Appeals. Give yourselves a hand of applause. So when they say it can't be done, it can be done. Currently on the Third Court, I have 24 counties. There were 2 that voted blue. There was Travis County, and what was the other one? Hayes County. So you put me there. Thank you so much. We're taking it up a notch. I'm asking you for a promotion to the Texas Supreme Court. As Brandy has said, we have a big problem. We haven't had a Democrat there for a long time. And why does that matter? It matters because let's talk about public financing of our schools. How many of y'all think that the legislature does a good job with spending money on our public schools? Okay. So a colleague of ours, of Amy and I's, when I was on the district bench, John Dietz, several years ago, found that when there was the public financing of education came through our courts in Travis County, found that it was unconstitutional. The Texas Constitution says that the state must pay for free and an efficient system of public school. Efficient. That means that we have to efficiently be teaching our kids so when they get out of high school, they're ready to go to college or do whatever that is that they want. He found that that wasn't happening. It went all the way to the Supreme Court. And the Supreme Court found that it was really, yes, not a very good system. It was actually a pretty horrible system, but we're going to go ahead and let the legislature fix it. They shied away from their duty to tell the legislature, you've got to follow the Constitution. That's what's coming from this court. I have served as a municipal court judge, as a JP, as a county court at law, as a district judge, and as a court of appeals judge. If I get elected, I will be the only person on the court who has served on every lower level. Experience matters. I appreciate your vote, and I appreciate your vote on March 3rd, Gisela Triana for the Supreme Court. Thank you.
Thank you. Judge Meacham, some of y'all have already kind of answered this question, but you get another minute to add to it. What are the biggest changes you think we need to make to our justice system?
Well, again, I am running to bring balance to a monolithic court. It's monolithic. For 22 years, there's not been a voice from the Democratic side of the aisle. But there's a lot that the Chief Justice can do, even though we can't tell you policy like Representative Zwiener can or like future Congresswoman Wendy Davis can. But we can tell you things that we can do to direct the areas of law that matter to us. Just like Judge Birmingham was just talking about, we need to talk about criminal justice reform, but also civil justice reform. The Chief Justice can be a leader in those issues. The Chief Justice can actually give the state of the judiciary address and direct resources of an entire branch of government to actually begin looking at things like this, to begin looking at criminal justice reform and civil justice reform and make sure we don't penalize people for simply being poor anymore in our justice system. So that's one of the things I'd like to see change in the next few years.
Same question.
Well, along the same lines, access to justice is a big problem in Texas, not just for people who live below the poverty level and who qualify for legal aid, but for middle-class families who also cannot afford to litigate their disputes in court. We need to be... oh, I'm sorry? Sure. We need to be doing better to make sure that people have access to our justice system. We need to be looking for every source of funding. Just like the Court of Criminal Appeals has grants that they administer, so does the Texas Supreme Court. So we need to be actively seeking those grants and looking for additional funding for indigent representation. We also we need to be working through the state bar to encourage and provide incentives to lawyers to provide pro bono assistance. I'm actually currently working through the appellate section right now. We've created a pilot program where we are providing pro bono appellate services to immigrants whose asylum petitions have been denied at the border, and we've had a great response because attorneys want to volunteer when they have the resources and the incentives to do it, and we can encourage that as justices on the Supreme Court.
Thank you.
So we have a Supreme Court that is result-oriented. They figure out where they want to end in a case, and then they write the opinion to get there. You know, in my 24 years of being a judge, what people said in front of me, whether they won or they lost, they wanted a fair hearing. They wanted somebody to listen to them and apply the law fairly. And so that is my issue. My issue is that I want to make sure that the people that we have there are not putting a thumb on that scale, that everybody in front of them has the same rights, that are treated the same. Not that because, you know, you've got oil and gas who's giving them and contributing, you know, thousands of dollars to their campaign, that all of a sudden they decide, oh, Denton, you wanted to outlaw fracking within your city limits? You don't get to do that. You don't have the option to do that. And so that's what I think is one of our main issues that we need to tackle, which is just to provide fair and impartial and independent jurisprudence coming out of that court.
Thank you. The next question is relevant to what you just said. Justice Triana, you're up again. How do you propose to keep the judiciary independent from political influence, especially in today's hyper-partisan environment and with the federal judgeships rather packed?
Well, you know, we've seen what Trump has done with the judiciary, right? He has tried to, you know, push every young Federalist Society, usually white male, that he can get for lifetime appointments. We are not appointed for life. We run every 6 years. However, as I think it was Brandy who said, the ones that have been there, 7 of them have been appointed. So one of the things that everybody's talking about, and I think that we need to make sure that we're mindful of what it is that they're trying to do, is now they're talking about reforming how we elect our judges. They're saying, oh, this election after the Democrats came and swept in Harris County and Travis County and Dallas County and Bexar County, we need to go ahead and we need a better system. One of the things that they're wanting to do, which is going to need a constitutional amendment to pass, so we'll all get to vote, is they're wanting to change to just having exclusively the governor appoint. So we need to make sure that we don't vote for that, and I'll leave it at that.
Thank you. Same question.
There's all kinds of different bias in the judicial system. There's explicit bias, bias that we actually recognize that we have. And then there's implicit bias, which are just things that everyone has inside their psyche that they don't even recognize as a bias or a prejudice that they have. I think that we need to be educating judges on implicit and explicit bias. I know that Justice Triana is doing a panel discussion on that in May at one of the continuing legal education seminars. And I know that the Dallas civil court system is testing out jury instructions to help jury recognize implicit and explicit bias and render fair decisions. I think that that taking money out of the judicial system, the judicial process, is a laudable goal, but I don't know how practical it is when we elect our judges. And I personally trust the voters to make the right choice in an election like this. But I think that we can do more as far as recognizing and anticipating and shutting down implicit and explicit bias.
Thank you so much. Justice Meacham.
I would echo everything that Justice Triana and Brandy Voss just said. But let me also add, in addition to working on implicit bias and everything we do on the trial bench, you need to understand, like I do family law, I do civil cases where I see people on their worst days, where they've been kicked and they're at their lowest. But I've never asked them what their politics are. That's not how a trial judge works. And that shouldn't be how our justices on courts of appeals work either. The rule of law is the rule of law. I'm not naive to it, and I think that if the 3 of us become 3 of the 4 who get back on this court, and 4 Democrats get back on this court, we can start getting back to the law the way it should be. Not monolithic thought, not groupthink, but discussions about the law that doesn't have to do with politics, but that actually results in the best legal decision. and that's what I'm going to do.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you for joining us today. Is Jenny